Samantha from My Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a nautical bracelet using polymer clay. Now, what I've got here is some Primo Ecru polymer clay rolled out in the thickest setting of my pasta machine, and all I'm going to do is I've got two different texture stamps here. Both are ocean themed. I'm going to start off with this one. And this is supposed to be a background texture, so get something that is fairly small and repeatable. And this you are going to use to texture your clay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring cornstarch over first, actually. Okay, and I'm just going to use a brush to pat that across both my texture and my clay and my texture stamp. And this is just going to create a nice non-stick surface to work with. And let me just move those to the side. I'm also going to place that onto the back, just so that that doesn't stick to my fingers. Move that out of the way. I'll bring that over, and I'm going to place that cornstarch side down onto the surface. Then I'm going to grab this just to make sure that it doesn't stick to my fingers, and I'm going to press that down into the texture stamp like so. And just make sure you get a nice clean consistent texture. Another thing that you could use instead of this texture stamp is you could use sandpaper. Because that's a nice repetitive texture. You could use salt as well, so long as you got rid of the salt, rather than waiting until after it's baked. And that should just about do. Okay. And just lift that up, and then lift that up, and that should give you a nice clean texture. Then just brush over the surface to get rid of anything such as extra cornstarch, and I do have a little spot over here that I need to get rid of, and I'll just use the end of a blade for that. Here we go. And now I don't need all of this clay, so I'm going to grab the cutter that I'm going to use ultimately at the end of this, and I'm going to just generally cut away the extra clay, because I don't want more than I need, and that should just about do. And then if you want to, you can go with your texture, and let me see, that's a good spot. You can use it to kind of texture those edges so that they're a little less noticeable. And this is why I was saying to make sure that when you get a texture, get one that is relatively repeatable, so that you can go and retexture the piece at any point if you need to, because we're probably going to need to do that a little later on. Like there's a little spot over here that I want a little more texture in, and there we go. Alright, and that should just about do. I'm going to place that to the side because we don't need that. Alright, now I am going to tint the clay, and I'm going to use some brown alcohol inks for that. I am using Latte and Ginger. I'm just going to open those up, and you can use any colour of ink you want. Bear in mind that this is only for a stain, so they're supposed to kind of fade. There we go, that took a little bit to open. They're supposed to fade later on, so you're not going to be using a lot of inks. Okay, and all you're going to do is you're going to take those inks, and you're just going to drop that onto the surface, and then grab the other one and drop that down onto the surface. And I do plan on antiquing this a little later as well, once it's baked anyway. So if you don't get all of the texture, that's fine. You just want a relatively light coat of alcohol ink, and you're going to use that to just stain the surface so that it's more than just a flat ecru colour. Alright, and that should just about do. Then leave that for about 5 minutes just to let the ink dry. Okay, and there we go. Then grab a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and this is that, and just pop it on a baby wipe. And you're going to take that and just rub that over the surface very quickly, and this is going to remove the top layer of inks, revealing the lighter colour underneath. And you just need the lightest of touches to do that with the isopropyl alcohol. And there we go. That's our starting colour, and I can work with that a little more later on, but for now that's what I'm going to work with. Then allow that to dry. Okay, then I'm going to bring over that Nautilus texture from before, and I'm also going to bring over some silver leaf. I'm going to take that silver leaf, and I'm just going to take that out of its little container. I'm going to place that over the top. Okay, and get it to stick like so. Okay, and you can even use your brush to get that to stick roughly, and it doesn't have to all stick, just generally. Then grab your Nautilus and place that down right in the middle, like so. And I'm going to use an acrylic block to give me some stability here, and you're going to press down like so. Okay, just make sure you get a good impression of that, like so. Alright, then you're going to lift that out of the texture, and then we want to get rid of this extra leaf, so then I would just brush over the surface like this, and this does a good job of getting rid of the extra. I just want it on the areas where it sticks, so I'm almost burnishing it down into the surface where it's gonna stick to places, and generally it's not going to stick where the alcohol ink is very present. There we go, and then we're going to colour that. Okay, once you've got that, then I would advise lifting that up and cleaning the extra leaf. Okay, and then just before moving on to the next step, I want to cut this out using this large oval cutter, and just cut that out like so. And you can use these scrap bits for leftovers, since the ink has tinted it. It can make quite cool leftovers. And at this point I'll actually bring over the texture from before and just butt it up against the edges of the shape, and that will just give the shape a little more of a organic edge rather than the sharp one that the cutter will have left, while still at the same time keeping it in quite a oval shape. Okay, then you're going to want to take a small circle cutter and just position it on the end, because I want to make a bracelet, so I need holes for the cord. So just take those pieces out. There we go. Alright. Then grab some tape and just lay that over the surface like so, and very gently, very gently run it over the surface just so that you get the topmost part of the texture. Also, all of that leaf that I didn't keep before, you can brush that into a bag and use it in other projects, so it's only the metal leaf that I left now that is going to be wasted. The rest of it you can use in other projects, and that should leave the majority of the metal leaf in the Nautilus texture, which is what I want. Then I'm going to grab some translucent liquid clay, and you can use any translucent liquid clay you want. I am going to be using Kato liquid clay because it gives a little more of a shine when I use it. And then I'm going to take a blue alcohol ink, and I'm going to add 1 drop to 1 puddle, and I'm going to grab another alcohol ink, this one a little more of a turquoise blue, and I'm going to add that to the other puddle of ink, or of liquid clay. Then just mix those two up so that you incorporate the ink into the translucent clay. And this I'm going to use to colour the Nautilus. And this is a little green, so I'm not going to clean the piece so that it becomes a little less green and a little more blue. There we go. Then, starting from the light colour, I am then going to just pop that down into the surface here, and it's going to look opaque before it's baked, but once it's baked the liquid clay clears up nicely because we're using translucent liquid clay, and you'll be able to see the metal leaf underneath this. And the whole point is to kind of create an enameled effect. Okay, and then just keep adding that liquid clay into the little dots. If you wanted to, you could also add liquid clay to the rest of the texture, though I find that this, if you just keep it to the Nautilus in the center, it will kind of highlight that and draw your eye to the center of the piece. So that's why I'm just going to colour the Nautilus. And then once I get a certain of the way up the piece, I will bring over that colour and I will start mixing the two together so that it goes from this nice light colour out to the darker blue colour. And I'll just continue until I have finished colouring in all of the little indented areas. Okay, and there we go. That's how it should look. Then you're going to just take that and place that on a piece of paper to bake. This is going to bake for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Once it's baked, while it is still warm, I'm going to show you how to curve it over an object to make it so that this gets the bracelet effect. Then we're going to do some sanding, maybe a little bit of antiquing with some darker browns to create a little bit of a border here. But yeah, bake this and then we can move on to the next couple of steps. Okay, and here it is once it's baked. And now this is just out of the oven and you can see it is quite flexible. It is hot though, so just be careful. And just grab any kind of object that has the correct radius for your bracelet. It could be a jar or it could be part of a bracelet stand. And just take something so that you can hold it down to place. And then I would submerge this in a sink of water so that the cold water sets it. Okay, and then once that has cooled, you should be left with something that has a nice curve to it. And yeah, that is how you curve your piece. Now, I do want to just tend to the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some fairly coarse sandpaper. And I'm going to scratch over the back, purposefully making marks in the clay. And this is going to create a texture. And I am going to be going in all directions, not worrying about a specific direction. You could if you wanted to. And what I'm going to do is I will antique this so that our back has a little bit of a pattern to it. This will also smooth out any grooves and stuff present on the back. And this is optional. You could just sand the back to be nice and smooth, or you could apply a backing of clay if you wanted to. Lots of different things you could do, but I think this will match with the piece. Right, and I think I got most of that. Then I will just grab a brush and just brush over the surface. And this brush has a little bit of black mica powder on it, or black pastel on it. And this is both going to remove the dust and show me how those scratches look. Okay, remove that. Just clean the surface. Okay, and I am just going to clean this as well. And those scratches will stay, but I'm going to antique it with paint. And I think I need to go a little longer because that wasn't as many scratches as I would have liked. Okay, and I scratched it up a little more. Now I'm ready to antique. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some burnt umber acrylic paint, and I'm going to place that down. And it's not quite as dark as I would like it, so I'm going to grab a little bit of black acrylic paint too. Just a little bit, I don't need as much. Okay. And I will grab a brush, and also I am going to be antiquing the front as well. So I'm just going to take a little bit, like that, and stipple it onto the surface, like so. And that's going to give me a slightly uneven colour distribution, so that it's not all one colour. And I'll do that over the whole surface, and then I will repeat the same on the front. And then you're going to wait for the paint to dry, give it like maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and that should be enough to let it dry, because it's not a thick coat of paint, it's just a light coat. Then I'm going to flip over onto the front, and when you're doing this, I'm only going to be doing the edges. I'm not interested in the middle part. I really don't want to get it on the liquid clay if I can avoid it. So I'm only going to be doing the edges and mainly the texture that I've got going on, like so. And I also am going to colour the inside of these little holes. Okay, and then once it has been given a chance to dry, you can grab a baby wipe and just take that and just brush over the surface. And this is just to start removing the top coat of paint. The cleanup is going to be finished with a bit of sanding, because otherwise the baby wipe will remove all of the paint. And this is just to kind of give it a gritty, aged appearance. And then it is going to get popped back into the oven for like 2 minutes so that the paint heat sets, because paint is quite, acrylic paint anyway, is quite durable if you heat set it. Right, and then I'm just gonna run that over the surface, and I don't want to remove it around the edges. I want to keep that kind of dark border that I've got going. And again, if you don't like any of these steps, you can absolutely skip them. That's completely up to you. And you've still got that nice alcohol ink staining around the edges and around the actual antiqued areas, and it just gives it a nice weather-worn effect. Right, and when you put this back in the oven, it is going to set it back to flat pretty much, so you're going to need to dome it again, but I have already shown that, so I'm not going to show how to do that. But pop that back into the oven to heat set it, and then we're going to get onto the sanding. Okay, and here it is once it's out of the oven, and it should have brought it back to a matte finish. Everything should be dry, and now you're just going to grab some sandpaper, and it's very quick. You just grab some 400 grit, and generally I will do this underwater so that I catch all of the dust, but I'm going to show you quickly here. But you do want to do this by the sink. You're just going to go over it very quickly, and this is going to remove the top layer of paint and leave everything else in the texture. And I'll do the same over here, where I'll just give it a very quick brush over, and that will just get rid of smudges and things like that, while also at the same time just cleaning everything up. Right, and then I'm going to go through the grits very quickly, just giving a very light pass with each grit. The first one was a 400, this is a 600. And that's really all you do. And then I'm going to keep going through the grits until I get to the 8000, and that's going to bring it to a light satin sheen, but only on the raised texture parts. Everything else will stay matte. Okay, and here is how that should look. It should have a nice sheen to it. And what I've done is I've done one half of the bracelet, and I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. You don't need to seal this. If you are using faux metal leaf, the metal leaf that I'm using here does not have any real metal in it, such as silver, so it won't tarnish. If your metal leaf does contain real metal, you do need to seal it, but I have deliberately used one that won't tarnish, so I don't need to seal this with any varnish. Also, the paint has been baked on, and again it's been sanded down so that it's only in the grooves of the piece, so it won't wear away. Now, I have some sari ribbon here, and I've cut it into lengths of 3 lengths. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that through one of the holes, like so. I'm going to bring those pieces together, and I've got a nice large hole spacer here, and I'm going to put that over all of the threads, and then bring that down to meet this in the center, and just pull that a couple of times to make sure that it's all nice and even and sitting correctly, and then you can bring that right down against it. Then take those cords, and you could plait them if you wanted to, but I want to kind of leave it kind of fluffy, I guess, because I like the organic look of it. Again, you can use any cord you want. Then grab 3 of those cords. If you have a cord end that can accommodate all of them at once, that's great. But if you don't, then you can use 2 cord ends. And this is what the cord end looks like. And I'm just going to fit those cords down, and I'm making sure that I have 3. Yeah, see, I did not get that one. Making sure that I have 3 cords in there. Grab your pliers and squeeze that cord end shut, And once you've kind of got it somewhat of the way closed, you can then go in and really give it a good squeeze and make sure that you've captured all of those chords, like so. Then you're going to repeat the same with the other three, like so. Then grab a jump ring, open that up, slot that through the loop on the end, like so. And attach your clasp. And again, you can trim away all of this extra cord, but I kind of like to leave it there because it hides the cord ends and the jump ring a fair bit. Though there is a bit too much there, so once you've attached everything, you can go in and just trim things up as needed. And there we go. That's how it should look. So quite a nice large piece. You could also make necklaces like this, just make the cords a little larger and maybe make this a little less domed, but yeah, you could make a choker necklace like this with this technique. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I do hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any suggestions or questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it helps the channel out and gets this video out to more people who like doing polymer clay. Also, if you'd like to support the channel so I can continue creating videos just like this one, please do consider becoming a member. There is a join button just below this video. There also is a link to my Patreon account in the description below. They're both the exact same thing. You get exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube. So either one is greatly appreciated. Another way to support the channel is to check out my Etsy store, where I sell things such as the texture stamps that I used today or the cutters, and that's a great way to support the channel while also getting a couple polymer clay tools to work and make your own polymer clay creations with. But yeah, I do hope that you enjoyed. This one is a little bit different, kind of experimented around with different techniques. Usually I don't combine metal leaf with kind of this organic finish, but I actually think it turned out quite nice. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.